Seemingly the fever dream of an 8-year-old, scorpions are armed with a set of pincers, a flexible venomous tail, and a pair of alien-like chelicerae for slicing up prey. And now you may not believe me on this one, but some scorpions are actually just little sweethearts. Welcome to the Insect Spotlight Project, a channel dedicated to shining a light on insects, spiders, and any other creepy crawlies that get left out of the ecologic spotlight. Today, we're talking about the order Scorpiones, better known as the scorpions, in case you hadn't already put that together. We're finally throwing in another arachnid order. It's been a while, I'll be the first to admit it. The order Scorpiones contains over 2,000 species, which is a lot. But for reference, the spiders contain around 50,000 species, so everything's relative, you know. Scorpions have been kicking it on Earth for over 400 million years, which means they've survived like 4 mass extinction events, so these are hardy critters. And in that time, they've dispersed quite a bit. They can be found on every continent except Antarctica, and as a general rule of thumb, most places where it doesn't get too chilly. So you're not going to find them in like northern Canada or Scandinavia and the like. There are also some islands that avoided colonization, such as New Zealand. Most scorpions are going to be xericoles, meaning they're adapted to life in deserts or arid regions. However, they can be found in a multitude of habitats, even tropical rainforests and alpine crags. But what even is a scorpion? Well, scorpions are arachnids, so they've got 8 legs. Now, you may be looking at this picture and furiously typing on your keyboard that this cannot be true because you count 10 legs. But don't do that, because you'd be wrong. Scorpions do have 8 legs. Their claws are not legs, they're pedipalps. You know those weird little appendages by the mouths of spiders? Yeah, they got beefed up a bit in the scorpions. Like other arachnids, they've also got 2 main body regions. This is as opposed to insects, which have 3. Scorpions have a cephalothorax and an abdomen, also called the prosoma and opisthosoma, respectively. The tail is part of the abdomen, though it's sometimes referred to as a post-abdomen. You can also just unceremoniously label it the front part, middle part, and back part, but make sure to do it in Latin so you still sound fancy. So the prosoma, mesosoma, and metasoma, respectively. Like other arachnids, you'll also see they have chelicerae, but these aren't venomous fangs like in the spiders. These are more like mini claws, giving it a Ridley Scott alien-type vibe. The name scorpion actually refers to this chelicerae and pincer combo. So scorpion comes from scorpios in Greek, and that seems to come from an ancient word meaning to cut or shear, referring to how scorpions cut or shear their food. If you flip the scorpion over, you'll find these comb-like structures called pectins. These are sensory organs, picking up on both mechanical and chemical stimuli. So they are mechanoreceptors and chemoreceptors. They've got tiny eyes, and I guess we should mention the giant stinger on the back of its hyper-flexible tail. So the last segment of this tail, where the stinger actually is called the telson. Now, right behind that segment is the anus where the scorpion excretes, which morphologically it makes sense, but logically it just feels wrong. The tail is going to be your best ID tool though. Scorpions are very distinguishable. There is kind of a lookalike with the pseudoscorpions, but they're very small and they don't got a tail. And if that still isn't enough, their exoskeleton glows under UV. So scorpions have a strange life cycle for an arthropod. They really just have a 2-stage life cycle, going from juvenile to adult. Scorpion eggs never see the light of day. Scorpions are what we call viviparous, meaning they have live birth. This is as opposed to oviparous, which is the laying of eggs. There's also oviviparity, which is where eggs develop and hatch inside the mother and then are birthed live, but scorpions really do seem to be on the viviparous side, as there's significant nutrient exchange happening between the mother and the developing offspring. Scorpion gestation can take anywhere from a few months to around 2 years, so God bless the scorpion mother for carrying around a whole load of babies that long. Anyway, out pop the little juvenile scorpions. I've also heard them called scorplings, which is very cute. And scorpion brood size can range anywhere from 5 to over 100. The creamish white young will immediately scuttle onto the back of the female. And it's a good thing they have her around because the scorplings are helpless at this point. Until their first molt, they can't sting or even really feed. We call this the pro-juvenile stage. They're just adapted to cling on to the mother's back, even having little suckers on their feet. After 1 to 4 weeks, the babies will have their first molt. Their exoskeleton is a little more sclerotized or hardened now, and they can fend for themselves a bit better. Most will disperse, but some species hang around the mother for a while as a sort of social group. Scorpions usually take a couple years to reach adulthood. In this time, their goal is to eat and not be eaten, which, considering they live in some pretty extreme environments, is easier said than done. Most scorpions are going to be nocturnal or crepuscular, meaning active at dawn/dusk. In the desert species, this is very necessary to avoid the scorching UV radiation and the heat, but in general, it's great to help avoid predation. Scorpions have to be on the lookout for a whole host of predators, such as lizards and birds, other scorpions, and small rodents like the grasshopper mice and the meerkats. Nat Geo has a great scorpion versus grasshopper mouse video. Shouldn't be hard to find. Highly recommend. But their tail and pincers are not just for defense, of course. Scorpions are hunters, lying in wait before envenoming and devouring whatever they happen upon, whether it be insect or spider or even some vertebrates. Most scorpions are going to be more ambush predators, but some do actively hunt, tracking their prey through vibration detection since they have very poor eyesight. Scorpions can go many months without food, an important skill, especially in those hostile desert habitats. And this is all the more impressive considering they get most of their water from their food. The general battle strategy for scorpions is restrain with big claws and then inject venom with big stabby tail if needed. Once they've eaten enough things to reach adulthood, they turn their attention to finding a mate. The female releases pheromones in the sand, which the male can pick up on using their pectins, those comb-like structures on their venter or underside. So once the pair meets, the male will shake its body rigorously to send vibrational signals to the female. And should she be receptive, they engage in a courtship dance called promenade à deux, a walk for two, where they grasp claws and they walk themselves around the area until a suitable surface is located for the male to deposit his spermatophore, which is basically just a package of sperm. At this point, the female walks over to the spermatophore and uptakes it into her genital aperture. In many groups, this actually creates a mating plug which prevents future matings for a period afterward. Scorpions will mate multiple times across their life, which makes sense since some can live for over 2 decades. Some scorpions can even reproduce asexually through parthenogenesis, the creation of viable offspring from unfertilized eggs. Now, if this video made you more terrified of scorpions, I apologize. I'm sure the close-up of the chelicerae did not help. However, the vast majority of scorpion species are not a threat to humans, so take a deep breath. But don't be reckless. Some scorpions can still deliver some nasty stings, and allergic reactions to scorpion stings are also no joke. I don't want to underplay the fact that there are people who have lost their lives to these creatures, so don't be afraid, but have a healthy dose of respect. On average, scorpions seem to kill a couple thousand people per year, mostly in Africa and Asia, and this usually occurs in children or places without great healthcare infrastructure, oftentimes both. As international healthcare improves, we're starting to see these numbers decline. Remember, scorpions are reclusive, so if you're in an at-risk area, take precautionary steps. Don't go walking around barefoot, stay wary of wood piles, and before you use any blankets, sleeping bags, or jackets, make sure to shake them out, even if you only put them down for a second. When I was in the Serengeti, I put my jacket down for maybe 2 minutes on top of my camera bag. And when I put my jacket back on, I was immediately stung by a scorpion in my sleeve. Now, I was fine, but don't tempt fate. The tour guide actually used a handheld cattle prod as they said the electricity would denature the venom. Apparently that's not really a thing, but neat little adventure. Scorpions do a lot of good for their ecosystems though, so don't just broadly demonize them. They feed on potential pest species, like cockroaches and crickets, and they're also a great food source for a wide variety of critters, as we discussed before. Scorpions are also a point of interest for application in the medical field. Research is ongoing to utilize peptides in scorpion venom to fight bacterial or viral infection as an antifungal treatment, and even to lessen the detrimental effects of radiation exposure from chemotherapy. There's a lot of potential there, and we've barely skimmed the surface. If you want to see some scorpions on your property, you need structural complexity. Add in stones or wood piles or some shrubbery, though some scorpions will just make their own burrows in sand or soil. However, once again, respect their space, especially if you live in a high-risk area. If you want to handle a scorpion, buy one as a pet. They do make great pets. Just research the species first, and don't just go grab one from outside. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening. We were way overdue for this order, so I appreciate all y'all's patience. And if you like the content, please remember to like and subscribe to keep up to date with future orders. And if you have any personal experiences with scorpions or any favorite species, please leave them in the comments below. I always love hearing about it. Now, I might just go ahead and knock out the last 2 insect orders, so stay tuned if you want to see that series through. Peace, y'all.